Imagine driving through the heart of the Amazon rainforest. For hundreds of kilometers, there is nothing around you but trees, rivers, mud, and endless jungle. No cities, no highways, no easy way out. And then, the road disappears. Not because someone removed it, not because it was destroyed by an earthquake, but because the Amazon itself seems to swallow it. This is BR 319, a Brazilian highway built to connect two of the largest cities in the Amazon, Manaus and Porto Velho, a road that was once supposed to transform transportation across the region. Instead, large sections became almost impossible to travel. During the rainy season, parts of the highway can turn into enormous fields of mud. Bridges deteriorate. Vehicles become trapped, and some sections seem to disappear beneath the forest. But why was this road built in the first place? And why has keeping it open become one of the most controversial infrastructure battles in Brazil? A road through nowhere. When most people imagine highways in Brazil, they picture busy roads connecting cities, trucks carrying cargo, and endless lines of cars. BR 319 is different. The highway cuts through one of the most remote regions of the country. Its original purpose was simple: connect Manaus in the middle of the Amazon with the rest of Brazil by road. Construction began during Brazil's military dictatorship in the 1970s. At the time, the idea seemed enormous. Build a highway through one of the world's largest rainforests and connect isolated communities to the national road network. The road was eventually completed, but keeping it operational was another story. Because building a road through the Amazon is one thing. Maintaining it is something completely different. Heavy rainfall, flooding, soft soil, rivers, humidity, and vegetation growing back incredibly quickly. All of these forces constantly attack the road. And eventually, large sections began deteriorating. And the road started to disappear. For a while, BR 319 connected Manaus with the rest of the country. But maintenance became increasingly difficult. And over time, the road deteriorated. Some sections became so difficult that normal vehicles could no longer pass. During the dry season, parts of the highway can look almost ordinary. A long dirt road surrounded by dense forest. But then the rain arrives, and everything changes. Water fills the road. The soil turns into mud. Huge potholes appear, and trucks can become stuck for hours, sometimes days. A journey that should take hours can become an unpredictable expedition. Drivers have to move slowly, very slowly, looking for the safest line through the mud. Sometimes another vehicle has to pull them out. And in the worst conditions, the road simply becomes impassable. This is where the nickname begins to make sense. The Brazilian road that disappears every year. The Amazon is the real enemy. But the biggest problem isn't simply the rain. It's what the rain does to the ground. Much of the Amazon region contains soils that become extremely unstable when saturated with water. And a road needs something the Amazon doesn't naturally provide: a stable surface. Engineers have to build layers capable of supporting heavy vehicles. Drainage systems have to move enormous amounts of water away from the road. Bridges must survive flooding. And everything has to function in one of the wettest environments on Earth. If maintenance stops, nature takes over. Grass grows across the edges. Vegetation returns. Water cuts channels through the road. And eventually, the highway begins looking less like a highway and more like a trail through the rainforest. The bridges. Then there is another problem: water. BR 319 crosses countless streams, rivers, and flood-prone areas. Some crossings require bridges, and bridges in the Amazon face their own challenges: floods, rot, structural damage, floating debris, and the enormous difficulty of transporting construction equipment into remote areas. When a bridge fails, there isn't always another road nearby. There may be no easy detour. A single damaged crossing can isolate entire communities, and that's what makes BR 319 so different from a normal highway. In many parts of Brazil, if a road closes, another road is usually nearby. Here, there may be nothing, just forest, for hundreds of kilometers. Why not just fix it? At this point, the obvious question is, why not simply pave the road properly? And this is where the story becomes much more complicated. For supporters of BR 319, the highway is essential. Manaus is one of the largest cities in the Amazon. It is home to millions of people and a massive industrial sector. But Manaus is geographically isolated. Most goods entering and leaving the region depend heavily on rivers, air transportation, or long logistical routes. A reliable highway connection could potentially reduce travel times, lower transportation costs, and improve access for communities along the route. For many people living in the region, BR 319 isn't an environmental debate. It's a road they need, a road that could connect them to schools, hospitals, jobs, and markets. But there is another side to the story, and it is much bigger. The road that could change the Amazon. Environmental researchers have long warned that improving BR 319 could create something much more important than a highway, a corridor into the forest. Because once a road becomes reliable, people can travel farther. Businesses can expand. Land becomes easier to access, and other roads can begin branching away from the main highway. This is sometimes called the fishbone effect. A main road, then smaller roads extending from it, then more roads, and more human activity. The concern is that an improved BR 319 could make previously inaccessible areas of the Amazon much easier to reach. And once the forest becomes accessible, protecting it becomes much harder. A battle between development and conservation. This is why BR 319 has become one of Brazil's most controversial highways. On one side, people argue that Brazil cannot leave millions of citizens isolated simply to protect the forest. They point to the economic potential, the transportation problems, the communities that depend on the highway, and the importance of connecting Manaus with the rest of the country. On the other side, environmentalists warn that paving the highway without extremely strict controls could accelerate deforestation in one of the world's most important ecosystems. And the stakes aren't small. The Amazon isn't just another forest. It stores enormous amounts of carbon. It influences regional rainfall. It contains extraordinary biodiversity. And it plays a major role in the climate system of South America. So the question isn't simply, should Brazil pave a road? The real question is, what happens to an entire region when a road finally becomes reliable? The road that changes with the seasons. Perhaps the strangest thing about BR 319 is that it almost feels like two different highways. During the dry season, you can see long stretches of dirt beneath your tires. Dust rises behind vehicles. The road appears open, passable, almost normal. Then the wet season arrives. The same road transforms. Rainwater collects in enormous holes. Mud covers the surface. Vehicles slow down. Some get stuck. And sections can become extremely difficult to cross. The landscape doesn't change. The forest doesn't move. But the road does. Its condition can depend on something as simple as how much rain has fallen. For the people who travel this route, the weather can determine whether the journey is possible at all. The people who live along the road. And there is another side of BR 319 that is easy to forget. People actually live along this route. Small communities, families, workers, truck drivers, farmers, people who depend on transportation to access basic services. For them, a bad road isn't just an inconvenience. It can mean higher prices, longer journeys, difficulty reaching medical care, difficulty transporting products, and sometimes isolation. This is why the BR 319 debate is so emotional. For someone sitting in a city thousands of kilometers away, a road through the Amazon might look like an environmental threat. For someone living beside it, that same road can represent their only connection to the outside world. So, will the road ever disappear? Maybe the better question is, will BR 319 ever become a normal highway? That answer is still complicated. There have been plans, studies, maintenance projects, and proposals to improve different sections. But rebuilding a road through the Amazon isn't like repairing a highway somewhere else. Every kilometer comes with environmental, engineering, and logistical challenges. And every improvement raises another question. How do you make the road usable without turning it into a gateway for uncontrolled destruction? That may be the real challenge. Because destroying the road isn't a solution, but simply paving everything without safeguards could create a problem even larger than the road itself. The strange future of BR 319. Imagine BR 319 20 years from now. One possibility: a fully functional highway crossing the Amazon. Trucks moving between Manaus and the rest of Brazil. Communities better connected. Goods moving faster. Economic activity increasing. But there is another possibility. More roads, more settlements, more land clearing, more pressure on the rainforest, and perhaps a completely different Amazon. The future of BR 319 could therefore affect far more than the people who drive on it. It could influence one of the most important forests on Earth. Final revelation. And maybe that's what makes BR 319 so fascinating. It isn't simply a broken road. It is a collision between two forces. One wants to connect. The other wants to preserve. One represents development. The other represents conservation. And right in the middle, there is a highway disappearing beneath the Amazon every rainy season. But there is something even more remarkable. The road itself isn't the real mystery. The real mystery is what happens when humans finally manage to make the road permit. Because once BR 319 stops disappearing, the Amazon around it may begin changing forever. And that is why this forgotten highway could become one of the most important roads in Brazil. Not because of where it goes, but because of what it could unlock. This is Brazil unknown. And sometimes the most mysterious places in Brazil aren't hidden from us. They're hidden behind a road that barely exists.